Hi there, this is Teacher Shirley again with yet another teaching module in economics. We've just begun with the chapter Supply and Producers Behavior. We started with studying what is supply and quantity supplied, what is individual supply schedule and individual supply curve, and market supply schedule and market supply curve. Today we will carry on with the topic. So stay with me. When we think of the word supply, so many other related terms crop up in our mind. Today in this teaching module, we will cover the factors affecting supply, that is, the determinants of supply and the law of supply. What does supply depend on? Supply is a function of many factors. There are many variables on which supply is dependent. We will try to study these factors affecting supply in the following slides. But before that, I want you to consider that you are a supplier or producer of pizzas. Who doesn't like eating pizzas, right? We love to eat pizzas some time or the other. But now you have to imagine that you are a producer or a supplier of pizzas. So once you get into the mindset of a supplier, once you put yourself in the place of a supplier, you are in a better position to think what are the factors that affect your supply of pizzas in the market. So let's get thinking. Let me think now. What will affect the supply of pizzas? Well, first, the price of my pizzas, the price of competitors' pizzas or other competing goods, the cost of flour, yeast, other raw materials, the cost of labor, transport, fuel, electricity. If the government gives me subsidies, what if the government taxes? That could also affect my supply. What is my goal? Do I want to make a profit? Or do I want to make a name for myself in the market? Or do I want to increase my sales? Am I confident of making a business? Is there enough demand created for my product? What is the state of technology that I have at my disposal? Am I going to make pizzas with a few ovens or with hand, with a traditional oven? Or will I get some machinery? Will the weather be good enough so that I can supply regularly? Oh, there are so many factors affecting supply. Should I produce pizzas? Now we are in a better position to understand what are the factors affecting supply, having put ourselves in the place of a producer or a supplier. Well, the first factor affecting supply, as we know, is the price of the good itself. If the price of the product increases, your revenue will increase. We know that price into quantity gives the revenue to the supplier. And revenue minus cost is the profit. So if price rises multiplied by quantity, then the revenue also rises. And if revenue rises minus the cost, then profit also rises. So if price rises, supply rises. And if price falls, supply falls. Because when price rises, the possibility of making higher profits is always there. The second factor affecting supply is price of related goods. We know that goods are related in two ways. Either they are substitutes of each other, or goods are related in the form of being complements of each other. In this example, I would like to take the example of substitute goods. In that way, these two goods are related. Since we're talking about pizzas, our mindset is prepared to understand in terms of the example that we have at hand. So I've taken this example. In this case, burgers would be a probable substitute for pizzas. Well, if the price of burgers rises, the supply of pizzas will fall. Whereas if the price of burgers falls, the supply of pizzas will rise. Why? because when the price of burgers falls, the price of pizzas will be higher comparatively. So there is a possibility of making higher profits. So the supply of pizzas will rise. The third factor affecting supply is number of firms in the industry. Market supply depends on the number of firms in the market. Market supply increases if number of firms increase, and market supply decreases if number of firms decrease. Here we see there are many suppliers of the example that we have taken, that is pizzas. We have Pizza Hut, Domino's, Cremo, Amul, and so on. The fourth factor affecting supply is goal of the firm. If the goal of the firm is to maximize profits, more will be supplied only at higher price. And if the goal of the firm is to maximize sales or output, more will be supplied even at the same price. We know that there is yet another goal, and that is the goal of social welfare. You see here illustrated in the picture, the firm is acting out of charity in a charitable manner. More is supplied even at a lesser price, or perhaps the good is even given for free. So firms do behave differently in different situations. Goals can change. The fifth factor affecting supply is price of the factors of production, or the cost of production. If the factor price decreases, then cost of production reduces, and more of the good can be supplied at the same existing price. And if the factor price increases, cost of production increases, and less of the good is supplied at its existing price or same price. We know various factors of production are raw materials, labor, transportation, fuel, electricity, and so on. And the cost of all of these does affect production in a big way. Higher the costs of production, or higher the cost of the factors of production, less willing will the supplier be to supply more. Whereas if the cost of production falls, then the producer may be able or ready to supply more even at the same price. We move on to the sixth factor affecting supply, and that is state of technology. When there is improvement in technology, cost of production reduces. As a result, more of the commodity is supplied at its existing price. When the cost of production falls, perhaps due to introduction of new and latest technology, that means that you can produce more in a shorter period of time, as well as the cost of production also falls. So you are in a position to supply more at the old price or more at the same existing price. You can see here in the pictures, we see down below here a handmade pizza in a traditional oven, dished out one or two at a time. Whereas you can see here, with the help of the machine, so many pizza bases can be produced. So that surely reduces the cost of production, and so the supplier is ready to supply more even at the same old price. The next factor affecting supply is business confidence. In case of high business confidence, when investment rises, supply starts rising, and the quantity supplied rises even when own price of the commodity remains constant or same. The opposite happens in case of low business confidence. What gives the supplier, the producer, the firm, or the businessman this level of confidence? It is the demand that he sees possible in the future that gives him the confidence. When the business confidence is low, he will supply less at the same price. Whereas if he expects a great deal of demand and is confident that his investment is going to yield much more profits, then he will be more willing to supply more even if the same existing or original price. Here's another very important factor that affects supply, and that is government policy. Well, taxation and subsidies of the government affects the market supply of goods. increase in taxation decreases the supply, while increase in subsidies increases the supply, other things being equal. So if the taxes rises, what does it mean? It becomes expensive for the producer or supplier to produce. So for him, the cost of production rises, and therefore the supply falls. So the producer supplies less at the existing price. Conversely, in the case of subsidies, if subsidies increase or rise, then for the producer, the cost of production falls. So he is in a better position to supply more even at the existing price. And so therefore, supply rises. Before we move on to studying the law of supply, let us first summarize the factors of supply that we have discussed today. We have studied just 8 factors of supply, but there are many more factors that can affect supply. So let us just revise them before we go on to the law of supply. First one is price of the commodity or good, price of related goods, number of firms, goal of the producer, price of factors of production or cost of production, state of technology, business confidence, and government policy. When we studied individual supply schedule and curve and market supply schedule and curve, we understood one thing. There's a trend that when price rises, then quantity supplied rises. And when price falls, quantity supplied falls. So we can put this together in the form of a law. Other things remaining constant, quantity supplied of the commodity increases with an increase in price and decreases with a fall in price. So we see there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. The law of supply depicts the producer's behavior at the time of changes in the prices of goods and services. In the law of supply, we see a causal relationship between quantity supplied and price of a good over time, ceteris paribus, which means other things remaining constant. As price increases, so does quantity supplied. This makes sense to us. Producers will spend more on making a product if they expect to make more money on it. Sellers have a profit incentive or profit motive to charge higher prices. At a high price, suppliers devote more resources to a product, which results in a greater quantity supplied. So we can see here, as price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. As price goes down, quantity supplied goes down. The law of supply is based on certain assumptions. Assumptions refer to those factors affecting supply other than price that remain constant. When we are studying the law of supply, only price changes. Other factors remain equal, constant, same, or do not change. I've listed some of the assumptions of the law of supply. Here they are. The price of the factors of production remain constant. There is no change in the goal of the firm. There is no change in the technique of production or the state of technology. The price of related goods remains constant. Government policy does not change. There are other factors affecting supply. Those also are considered to be remaining constant when we are stating the law of supply. You know, if these factors change, then the law will not hold good. It will not hold good that when price rises, supply rises, or when price falls, supply falls, if these factors change. So, for our law to hold good or to be true, all the other factors other than price are assumed to be constant. Let us now move on to studying the schedule or the table. The law of supply can be explained with the help of the following schedule. Here we have a tabular representation of supply. The various amounts of quantity supplied at various possible prices are listed in this table. Together it comprises of supply. But when we express the quantity supplied at a particular price, we say it is the quantity supplied. So at price rupees 1, quantity supplied is 10 units. Price rupees 2, quantity supplied is 20 units. At price rupees 3, quantity supplied is 30 units. At price rupees 4, quantity supplied is 40 units. At price rupees 5, 50 units are supplied. So in the schedule we see that quantity supplied increases from 10 units through 50 units when price rises from rupees 1 to rupees 5. This clearly shows that there is a positive relationship or a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. Let us now move on to studying the diagrammatic representation of the supply schedule that we just saw in the previous slide. The supply curve SS slopes upwards from left to right. It has a positive slope and shows the direct relationship between price of a good and the quantity supplied. In the diagram, when price rises from rupees 1 to rupees 5, quantity supplied rises from 5 to 50 units. So in the diagram, we see price is plotted on the y-axis and quantity supplied is plotted on the x-axis. When we plot the points shown in the schedule, that is at price rupees 1, 10 units are supplied, price rupees 2, 20 units are supplied, at price rupees 3, 30 units are supplied, at price rupees 4, 40 units are supplied, at price rupees 5, 50 units are supplied, and we join all the points, we derive the supply curve SS. And what did we note about the supply curve SS? It slopes upwards from left to right. This shows us that there is a direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. When price rises, quantity supplied rises, and when price falls, quantity supplied as well falls. So this proves the law of supply to be true. So we have learned the law of supply with the help of a schedule and a diagram. Today we have learned about the factors affecting supply and the law of supply. I hope you've understood all that we have covered in the topic today. We've taken a considerable amount of examples. You can even take other examples and study the factors. Like for example, you could take the example of the supply of milk. What would be the factors affecting the supply of milk? What would be the supply of factors affecting the supply of cars? Or what would be the factors affecting the supply of masks and sanitizers in the present context that we are going through right now? So you could take any amount of examples of the supply of various types of goods and examine the factors that affect the supply of these goods. That would be a good activity or an exercise. I would encourage you to view the video again so that you understand the factors affecting supply and the law of supply in a better way. Thank you so much for giving me a listening ear. God bless you.